don't we just wait here for a little while? See what happens.
What have you done to it? What have you done to its eyes? What have you done to him, you maniac? Listen, asshole!
That happens to get you, Barbara. Here's Tony.
Welcome to episode 28 of Slice and Dice Dreadcast. I'm your host, Joey, coming in from Brooklyn, New York, here with my co-host, Jim.
Hey, everybody, how are you?
How's it going tonight, Jim?
Yep, hanging in there. Bear with me.
Baron with you. The Baron is with you, yes. And the Baron is also with us tonight. We have a special guest host, also part of the Horrorphilia Network in multiple capacities, Mike Maryman of Evil Episodes Podcast and more. How's it going, Mike?
It's going great. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Welcome to the show. So, up on tonight's chopping block, we got the classic 1980s Child's Play and its sequel, Child's Play 2, up for discussion tonight. So we'll segue into that in a bit. But before we go down Chucky's block, let's talk to Mike for a little bit. And before we talk to Mike for a little bit, actually, Jim, let me ask you.
Yep.
You got anything you want to disclose to the universe? Anything you want to plug? Anything going on? Paranormal entities?
Not a whole hell of a lot right now. I will be in a couple months, or no, sorry, a couple weeks. But I do want to give a little shout out to people who I met at a convention recently. What is it? Cult Classic Horror. They have a pretty good Facebook page and a big following. So head over to Facebook and like Cult Classic Horror, and it's obviously goes hand in hand with what we do. So yeah, just want to give a nice little shout out to them.
All right, shout out to Cult Classic Horror. Excellent. All right, so Mike, what's going down? Where are you coming in from?
I'm coming in from Northern California, Sacramento to be exact.
Beautiful.
Yeah, seems like there's fewer West Coast podcasters, but we are growing.
Hey, you know, it's hard to get the East Coast, West Coast connection with the 3-hour time difference, but luckily Slice and Dice runs late night after my evening nap.
I've kind of been
We are the After Hours podcast.
I've been fortunate. A lot of my co-hosts on various shows like to run late, so it works for me.
Nice. And speaking of various shows, why don't you let our listeners know what shows you're a part of?
All right. Well,
everybody get out your notepad and get ready to write down quick.
I mean, I guess the flagship shows that I actually produce are Evil Episodes Podcast, where we talk horror. You know, we talk modern shows, old shows, anthology shows, pretty much everything. Sometimes we'll hit up like YouTube or anything online, kind of horror web series. We talk horror movies as well, theatrical stuff, but we try to focus on horror TV. Our next episode recorded Sunday. We're wrapping up season 2 of Masters of Horror, which is the final season. So we're all done with that. Before that, we were doing Tales from the Dark Side. So yeah, we try to tackle stuff from the vault as well as modern stuff. And then my other flagship show is a monthly show called Theme Warriors, which is a take on, of course, Dream
Theme Warriors.
Yep, exactly. And that's just that's a non-horror specific show. We tackle all genres. We basically come up with a theme, the 4 of us, and then we whatever theme we agree to, we all pick a movie that's related to that theme. The last episode that's up right now is movies that take place underwater. So that was fun. And so those are like the two shows I consider the ones that I kind of came up with and produce and all that. I'm also a part of a bunch of other shows. I just started the new Rad Radio podcast. That's about 5-6 episodes in, and that's been a lot of fun. I'm the youngster on there, so I kind of have a different perspective than everyone because while I was alive in the 80s, I was pretty young. So a lot of the stuff that they saw, I saw like sequels to before all the originals. So it's kind of a cool dynamic we got going there. When it was my picks for that show, I did a battle between Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2. So that episode is up. And what else? Cut to the Chase. Anyone who's familiar with Horrorphilia is probably familiar with that show. It's kind of like a free-for-all show. We'll plan out like a couple topics and maybe figure out someone that wants to come on. And before you know, we have like 2 or 3 other people on, and we're talking about things that we didn't even plan. So it's really fun, free form, and we almost never know going in how it's going to turn out. So.
I listened to the recent episode, and it was like 15 minutes in, and you guys are talking about banging dogs, or Jerry was at least, but that's where the conversation started heading.
When you get Jerry and Dan together, all bets are off.
Oh man, you never know what's going to happen.
Nope.
That was a fun episode, I gotta say.
Yeah, it's a really fun show to record.
Yeah, it must be nice to just. I mean, we've done it before. We did actually last 2 episodes ago. We just had an impromptu, and we're just like, "Fucking, let's talk about whatever," and it was kind of fun and just almost liberating, like to not be fucking a tight ass with an itinerary, you know?
Yeah. I would say like most shows, especially once you get like a handful of episodes in and you're comfortable with what you're doing, there's going to be that kind of aspect, or at least like 1 or 2 segments worth of doing that anyway. So I think every show has a little bit of that going on, where you start to go with the flow of the conversation.
Like this part of our show.
Yeah, that episode with Jerry Herring, which was a impromptu one. I think it went 2.5 hours long.
Yeah, I think originally we were going to split it into 2 episodes. That was the original idea, but then it just kind of all felt like one long episode. It was hard to find a place to like break it up, so we just
let it rip. You know, excellent. So let me ask you a question, because I'm not too familiar. I've been seeing it a lot lately. The Legion podcast, right? And Don and Ellie's been telling me about it, and I'm starting to catch wind of Legion. Can you tell me about Legion?
So Legion was created about, it's been a while now, like 2 or 3 years ago, by Bo Ransdale, who he's on Devour the Podcast with David and Jamie. If anyone out there is familiar with that, Devour the Podcast. And he just wanted, he's been podcasting a while. He's kind of been talking horror for a long time. Very good at it. And he wanted to create a network of his own. And I hit him up and I was like, look, I don't want to leave Horrorphilia. I'm happy there, but if you want to let me put my show on to like a second place, I'll mirror it on there. He was all for it. So my Evil Episodes and Team Warriors kind of play on both networks, so it always helps get new listeners out there. But there's a bunch of different shows on there, horror and non-horror, so it's another growing network. I know people look at it as like competition, but really, man, if you're in the podcasting community, you're all one community, really.
Yeah, it's just fun.
I'm actually almost in talks with another person that I know in the paranormal world who just opened up a new website and is looking for a podcast. So I was thinking the same exact thing. It'd be kind of a different crowd, but everybody, pretty much a lot of people I know who are in paranormal or into horror. So it'll be cool to be on 2 different networks and get a different audience.
Yeah, there's so many podcasts out there, and like sometimes you'll discover a podcast that's like 30 episodes in, they have a huge following, and you've never even heard of it before, and you just love it from the first episode you hear it. But then it just puts in perspective that like it's easy to be in the bubble of like just a few hosts of shows, and everyone collaborates together. But there's so many out there that it's a fun time because there's just so much content floating around there on the internet that there can be shows that have 10,000 listeners and you've never even heard of it, but one day you just stumble upon it on accident or someone recommends it to you, and you're just like, man, this show's awesome. Why have I not been listening to it? Why haven't I heard of this? But that's how it goes on the internet. There's just so much.
Yeah. I mean, we had a guest host come on from the what was that podcast, Jim? Resurrection of Zombie 7 podcast. Jessica, is that her name? Jessica, right? And Jessica was on the show, and her podcast is like over 100 episodes. We had never heard of them. So there's like you said, there's a ton of content out there. But I kind of want to shift gears because originally I was going to ask you about podcasting more and how you got into it, but you got into that on Cut to the Chase. So also in the Horror Affiliate Network, if you want to know more about Mike and how he got into podcasting, check out that episode. I believe it's episode 8 of Cut to the Chase. So what I want to ask you instead is how you got into horror. So like, what was the first movies that you've watched? Tell us a little story about how you got into the horror scene.
So I was kind of fortunate growing up that my parents were pretty okay with me watching whatever. I mean, of course, there's always going to be certain limits, but it was they were never the type that like, okay, because something's rated a certain thing, you automatically can't watch it. They were. I remember my dad kind of having a conversation with me when I was like really young, and of course, I can only paraphrase it now because it's been so many years, but it was basically like one of those types of chats where you're like, look, whatever you see on TV and movies, it's entertainment. It's not real. Don't bring it into real life. And that was pretty much all it took for me. And after that, it was like, whatever you want to watch, they still, of course, monitored. It's not like it was like uncensored, go watch whatever. But for the most part, they were pretty open. And I remember my dad. Some of my early vivid memories was my dad took me to the drive-in because in '89, Batman, Tim Burton's Batman came out, and it happened to be playing with a movie we're going to be talking about later, Child's Play. Ooh. And I think my dad thought, because I was only 9 years old, so anyone can do the math to see how old I am now, but I was 9 years old at the time. And I think what my dad was thinking was that I would stay up. I would be up for like maybe 3/4 of Batman, fall asleep, and not even see Child's Play. But that plan went awry because I fell asleep like halfway through Batman and woke up like 10 minutes into Child's Play, not knowing that it was Child's Play. I just thought like, oh, I woke up and Batman's still on, and all of a sudden a babysitter gets thrown out the window. And I'm like, well, I don't know what's going on here. And then you see little toy doll feet running across the floor, and I had a hunch that this ain't Batman. So
this ain't Batman, that's for sure.
So yeah, and at 9 years old, man, it scared the shit out of me. But that kind of adrenaline rush you got as a kid, I think when you're that young, you're gonna have one of two reactions. There's gonna be the kids that are scared and they want no part of it ever again, and maybe they'll revisit horror later on in life, or you're like me, who you get scared, but it gives you that adrenaline rush that you just want to chase the rest of your life with other horror movies, and that's the category I fell in. So that's like really one of the early memories of what set me on the track of being a horror fan.
So let me ask you, if you were like me, where you were, growing up and you'd have a bunch of friends and you'd be like, hey, let's watch this movie. And to be like, why the fuck do you want to watch this old ass horror movie? And it was just like, you could never. I mean, that was my situation, you know. Maybe like more contemporary stuff that came out, my buddies would watch, but I was just solo renting VHSs and eventually DVDs and just crushing them myself. What was your, experience growing up as a kid with horror movies? Did you have buddies that enjoyed, or were you like me where you kind of were isolated because your friends weren't, obsessed with it like I was?
That's a good question, because I think when it came to that, yeah, we definitely went to the video store to rent VHS tapes. But I think when it comes to horror, the masses will always be down for like slasher flicks. That's like the one, because I remember me and a friend, we went and we had this place called 99-cent Video, where obviously it was 99 cents to rent a movie, and we went like back to back with the entire Friday the 13th franchise, then all the Nightmare on Elm Streets, and it seems like everybody was down for slasher movies. But when you got outside of that genre and started exploring different stuff, more weird stuff, that's when like a lot of the you know, only halfway quasi horror fans would kind of tune out and be like, I don't want to watch this, or why are you interested in that?
Right.
It was later on in junior high that I met my friend, turned out to be my best friend, that still is to this day, that me and him were pretty much down together for any movie, any genre. I got him into horror. He got me into like Hong Kong cinema, like all the John Woo flicks, like Hard Boiled and The Killer and all that stuff back then. So it was kind of cool. We were like educating each other on different genres. So
Nice.
that was a good experience.
Jim, what was your experience like growing up with horror?
I was always a slasher fan. But like you said, you were always showing your friends the older movies, and they were like, "Why you want to watch this?" I was doing that with the Texas Chainsaw on Halloween and Friday, and then mid '90s, and they were like, "I don't want to watch that." They probably watched like some of the sequels, but they were really into it. I was always going back and renting the VHS of pretty much the whole series, and I could just watch them over and over and over again. And being 8, 9, 10 years old, it was just something that always stuck with me. So I always predominantly went towards a slasher flick, which is pretty much our shtick now. But that's just what I like most and what I'm more comfortable with watching. And yeah, it's just it goes back to being a child, and that's what first got me into the whole genre of horror.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mike, you have a good point, because in retrospective thinking, the slasher is definitely probably the more predominant. You had the Freddys, the Jasons, the Michaels that people would watch, contemporary. And then in the 90s, you had Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer. And I remember seeing I Know What You Did Last Summer and Scream movies with my buddies in the theater, but like that's the extent of it, like Phantasm. No, I put on Phantasm and they were just like, what the fuck is this movie? And I'm like, just don't get it,
I was big on the B horror too, the ones that we all watch now and make fun of how shticky they are, but the Motel Hells and things like that movie.
Motel Hell was great.
Yeah, but those are movies that most people don't really watch. But I was renting those as a kid, because our store was Video Force, and I was going in there and just renting a tape, going home, watching it, taking it back, and another tape, and just kept doing that every day, and watching stuff like that. And I remember, watching not Evil Dead, Dead Alive the first time, and then watching, stuff like
976 Evil.
976 Evil and Fright Nights and all that stuff. I was renting, the VHSs. They were only at that point probably 5, 6 years old maybe, but I'd never watched them. I never went to the theater at 7, 8 years old watching horror movies, so I never got to see them until I saw them on VHS. But I can always look back on those 80s ones, and they're not slashers actually, if you think about it, but they are,
I
pretty
think,
under
yeah, I think
recognized horror.
slashers. It was like they were always coming out with sequels, always kind of staying relevant, despite the quality. Despite whether the quality went up or down, it felt like slashers were always a constant. So I think the mainstream horror fan always knew them. Slasher icons themselves, like Freddy Jet. I'm sure you could probably run into people today that they just know Freddy Krueger and Jason, and maybe they've seen a total of like two of the actual movies. But the slasher villains and icons themselves are just so popular in pop culture that that might be just movies that people watch, even if they're not an overall horror fan.
Yeah, it's a good point. So, all right. Before we go into Child's Play, I got to ask you another question, Mike. We asked this to all our listeners. What is your stance? What is your opinion? What is your ideas on the supernatural, the paranormal, ghosts? Do you have any kind of crazy stories, or is it just a flat out nothing? You know, where do you fall?
My answer is going to be boring. Nothing. I don't have any personal stories. I mean, other than like when kids get together and just make up stuff. As my personal belief, I guess I would say to be continued because you never know. I mean, I guess you could say up to now you haven't experienced it, but who knows? Who knows what's to come? So it's hard to rule anything out 100%.
Are you religious?
Not so much. I mean, I grew up. My parents were different religions, and when I was like young, they kind of taught me like aspects of each one. But then I think they were like, I would really have to ask them like how they came to this. But I think they were basically like, it's going to be too hard to like try to continue both of them going. So we'll just let him make up his own mind.
And he chose 666.
Of course.
Hell yeah. Shit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know how religious my parents are anymore, to be honest. I haven't really asked. I would say because my dad was raised Catholic, pretty hardcore. I think he went to Catholic school all the way up to I think 2 years of high school, and then he finished out in a public school. So I think when I was born, my mom told me he like wanted to get me baptized because way back then he like believed in it all, like, oh, he has to get baptized in order to be saved, or however it works. But when I talk to him now, he doesn't come off anymore like he still thinks that, but I don't know. I got to sit down and have a conversation with
him. Get him on the show. Let's talk religion, folks. Take it down to the Bible Belt. I was just curious because there's definitely this connection between religion, ghosts, the supernatural, and horror movies. It's all like this circular thing.
And the thing is like possession movies. My non-belief or not sure belief, whatever you would call it, it doesn't affect my enjoyment because I know some people. They're like, well, I'm an atheist, so I don't believe in it. So demon possession movies I don't like them. But for me, it doesn't matter. Like what my personal beliefs are outside of the movie, it doesn't matter. If the movie's entertaining and it's scary, it's scary. It's like I don't believe in zombies returning from the grave necessarily, yet. Who knows with our pharmaceutical companies? Maybe one day that'll happen, but I don't necessarily believe that zombies are going to come back from the dead, but that doesn't mean I don't enjoy zombie movies, or
right.
So to me, like exorcism movies, when they're good, I get just as much enjoyment out of those, as I would anything else. So my personal beliefs don't really move over into my preferences in horror.
All right. Very good.
Yeah, that's the one thing I always want to say too about. I think it's kind of like movies like we're going to be talking about tonight. Is you got to suspend disbelief, and you just got to go into it as, hey, I'm going in for the ride. You know, it doesn't have anything to do with my beliefs. Let's just go and see what they did. You know, you don't have to agree with what they're doing, but you can still enjoy what they're doing.
Right.
Yeah, and that suspension of disbelief, you know, it's got to work, right? It's like when we segue into Child's Play, I guess now, but like in Child's Play, you know, it works because it's not right off the bat. You got a guy talking fucking voodoo spells, you know, so it sets the stage where if it's a movie and it's just straightforward, then all of a sudden shit gets fucking weird. It tends to fall apart a lot of the times. For example, there's a lot of conflict, a lot of polarizing viewpoints about The Void. Have you guys seen The Void yet?
Yep.
You know, so no, without any spoilers, you know, it goes off the rails. You know, I enjoyed it, I liked it, but you know, Mike, my co-host on Death by Podcast, he wasn't into it. You know, so it depends, right? But suspension of disbelief in Child's Play, yeah, you gotta go in there with it, and it works. It works so well. So speaking of Child's Play, let's get right into the thick of things here. So you mentioned earlier you saw this in the drive-through. I was about to say the drive-in, and that's the catalyst to you choosing these films, right, Mike?
Yeah.
Because I remember when we posted that, oh yeah, we're gonna do this episode. I think you got some ball breaking from Jerry.
Which he did. I don't know if you noticed or you saw today. A couple hours ago, me and him were going back and forth a little bit about one of my posts about watching, or no, the trailer for the new one I posted up in the group to get ready for the episode tonight. And he was like, "I might call in just to tell you all how ridiculously bad these movies are."
I need to open up the chat room because there's 3 viewers watching, so maybe he's in there, fucking yelling at you.
Anyway, I'll give a little quick synopsis here. If anybody who's never seen Child's Play, obviously you know who Chucky is. But it's about a single mother gives her son a much sought after doll for his birthday, only to discover that it's possessed by the soul of a serial killer, Charles Lee Ray.
Charles Lee Ray. Jerry says, "Yo, Maryman, tell them how much you love me. Jim, I want you to do a YouTube series that is just you ranting about orb picks. And Child's Play sucks Glenn and Glenda's dick." Oh shit!
Hey Jerry, how you doing, man?
What's up there, Jer Bear?
No, he's just tuning in because he wants to hear about Child's Play because he probably secretly loves it.
He just wants to play with children. So, Child's Play, and like you said, right? Oh, you know who Chucky is? Of course. Have you ever seen Child's Play? Maybe. You know
Right.
that's
They know of him.
exactly iconic.
Like my son was Chucky for Halloween last year. Like that's because of it was on TV one day, and I just turned it on when me and him were sitting there watching it. And I was like, "You want to be him for Halloween?" And he was like, "Yeah." So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, Child's Play was one of the first horror movies my daughter watched and liked. It's great because there's no nudity, so it's perfect for kids, you know.
Yeah. And the only swearing is whenever he basically is mad. He just, he throws a couple swear words out there. But other than that, it's actually pretty.
Oh yeah, she hears me on a daily basis, which is a hell of a lot worse than Child's Play. That's for sure.
It's actually decently clean, for a horror movie, but it's not. I mean, the killings are pretty good, but I mean, as far as vulgarity or nudity, it's pretty much very minimal.
Yeah. It's funny, like my daughter I would much rather her watch, killing than sex. It's so weird. And Dave Z was talking about that in his interview episode. It's weird, right? I don't know. You guys have kids, right? Do you have kids, Mike? Yeah, right? Yeah, we got kids the same age, right? So, do your kids watch horror, Mike?
My daughter, well, my youngest is just turned 2, so she pretty much doesn't even watch movies. Period. Her attention span is not there yet. And then my oldest she'll be 6 in January. She mostly watches like kid stuff still, but like she'll like when we're watching Walking Dead, she'll come into the room or actually living room and kind of check it out. I mean, she does not like sit down and watch a horror movie yet. More stuff like I look for like gateway stuff with her, like something like Beetlejuice.
I was just going to talk about that.
Something like that. She actually walked into the room when I was watching Child's Play. It was right when Chucky got lit up in the fireplace and he comes out and running out all burned up, and she kind of laughed at that because I think she doesn't have the context yet of what's supposed to be scary necessarily. She's at that magical age where like she doesn't get the context of what a scary movie means. So like she could watch the same scene a couple of years from now and actually be scared, but right now it's more like funny to her that a doll's on fire.
Yeah, I was going to mention Beetlejuice because my daughter loves Beetlejuice. It's one of the first ones that she's seen, although it's not, obviously not a straight horror movie by any means. But the scene when they're in the closet and she like rips her face off and the eyeballs shoot out. The other day, she's like, I love that, Daddy. Rewind it. I'm like, all right. She watched it like 5 times in a row, and then he's like, she's holding the decapitated head with the knife, and she's getting a kick out of it,
Yeah.
Night of the Demons is one of her favorites. She fucking loves it, but I hate like the 2 nudity scenes, especially when she shoves the lipstick in her nipple.
Yeah, that's a great movie. It is a little sleazy, but it's great.
Yeah, especially like there's the opening scene. She's bending over when the Quigley's bending over, and then she goes to the clerk like, "Do you have any sour balls?"
Nobody thinks about that when they think of Halloween related movies, but doesn't the first one to actually take place on Halloween?
Yeah.
Halloween night.
Halloween night. Yep. Great movie. Soundtrack. I love that movie, and we've watched it countless times. Bought her the Blu-ray. She loves it, but and she's seen that scene before. But I still always try to like distract her or something like, "Oh, let's go get some gummy bears from downstairs," like.
I think the popcorn's ready.
So anyway, back to the Chuck. So this one's directed by Tom Holland, and I all these years until recently I didn't ever think who directed Child's Play until we did the episode with Christian when we covered Fright Night. But what's called? So we got the story by Don Mancini, who's written I think all of the Child's Play films, right? If I'm not mistaken,
majority of them.
So we got the new one coming out soon, Cult of Chucky.
Yep. The trailer looked good.
Yeah. Curse of Chucky was awesome. I thought it was a great return to the original tone of the first film. So that was pretty cool. The other two, what do we got? Bride of Chucky and Seed of Chucky. Mm-hmm. I'm not crazy about them. Saw in the theaters, but the original, right? Let's take it back to 1988. So this movie made a lot of money. It was a $9 million budget, and pretty big budget for this movie. It must have all went into Chucky's animatronics and shit, but it pulled in 44 mil. So that's success.
Yeah, it probably Chucky's animatronics, and maybe they had to pay Chris Sarandon a lot of money to be in a killer doll movie.
Yes.
Yeah, from Fright Night, which we've talked about on the show.
Yeah, that was like probably in his heyday, because he had Fright Night, Child's Play. So yeah, he was getting good work back then.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. That was his prime for sure. And you also, of course, got Brad Dourif.
Mm-hmm.
So they definitely weren't paying Alex Vincent the big dollars, that's for sure. And I always got a kick out of this. the mother is from the television program Seventh Heaven, and
Yep.
I just remember being like, "Holy shit, that's the mom from Seventh Heaven!" You know, like I don't know. It used to bewilder me when like specific characters were in other things, like the father from Home Alone, seeing him as a villain. John Hurd, rest in peace, shout out, right? It just I remember being like, oh my god, I can't believe that guy is being like that right now. So it's just weird.
Especially when they're so well known for something, and then they start showing up in other places.
Yeah.
Because as a kid, you know they're actors, but the concept of like, oh, they can play this role and then they can play that, and you're like, when it's a totally different character, it blows your mind as a kid.
Mhm.
And you got Dinah Manoff, who played Marty in Grease in this movie too. She was recognizable that time too.
Yeah. So,
Babysitter.
yeah. Dina Manoff. Yeah.
Mhm.
So shit, I forgot what I was gonna say. But anyway, yeah, they got the cast is great, you know. I the tone of this film is fantastic, straight up horror, you know. Where Child's Play 2 veers off, and then I watched 3 yesterday, and the movie opens up with "Don't fuck with the Chuck." I was like, yes, all right.
Yeah, I would say Child's Play, the original, is about as good as you can make a killer doll movie, as scary, I guess, as you could. They do a real good job of like you see the good guy doll throughout the movie, but not kind of when he morphs into like the bad version of him
Mhm.
too soon. It's mostly like a hand holding a knife, or you see the feet kind of running across the hallway. But they do a good job of not overexposing him. So when you finally get to the part where she goes to check for the batteries and he turns over and his face is like modified, it's impactful because all you up to that point was like the actual good guy doll face with the regular voice. And so when it all kind of flips the script on you and it's like, okay, now we're seeing the evil Chucky, it's a nice reveal.
Yeah. I wish I had the Blu-ray of this. I would have liked to look into more about the way they made Chucky and stuff. I'm sure I could have popped it on YouTube, but you know, I fucking got a million other things going on.
Oh, it was just the kid from The Problem Child when he was like 3 years old. If you remember that movie, The Problem
Oh
Child.
yeah.
What about it? What did you say about him?
I said Chucky was him at like 3 years old.
You know, when I was growing up, I had a My Buddy doll. So I remember I remember this distinctly. I was watching Police Academy, the cartoon,
Oh God.
one morning, and the fucking commercial comes on for Child's Play, and it's like, "Sorry, Jack, Chucky's back." I think it was part 2, maybe. And I just remember, Mom, get rid of this fucking thing. Like, dispose of My Buddy. I made her get rid of it. I was fucking petrified.
No longer your buddy.
Nope. No, that's for sure. So yeah. So again, let's take a step back into the film. It opens up with Brad Dourif in his human form, running into the toy store. So he's basically getting chased by the cops, and he gets shot, and apparently he knows voodoo, right? So this is my one nitpick with the movie is, you know, more, I guess, you know, they tell you a little bit how he got into it, but I want more about the whole voodoo aspect. I'm really intrigued by voodoo. So maybe that's why. But then again, maybe it would have taken it off the rails and took away from, you know, the swift pacing that the film has.
Maybe they could have did like some kind of flashback sequence when they actually mentioned the voodoo guy, and then maybe go back to see him, you know, training and teaching and all that kind of stuff. Maybe just a quick little 2-minute, 3-minute flashback.
Yeah. I don't remember Seed and Bride of Chucky too well, but you never get Brad Dourif in his any scenes like that in those films, right? Not that I can
No.
recall. So yeah, what are you gonna do? But again, this is what 1988. So I mean, slashers are a dime a dozen at this point, But here comes Child's Play. I mean, at first I was like, what can you say about this movie? It's just, it's kind of hard sometimes to talk about classics because, for example, we tried to talk about The Exorcist, and granted, we had a great conversation. In your head, it's like, what can you say about The Exorcist? Same thing. What we did Jaws, right? What can you say about Jaws? I don't know what the fuck can you say, right? I think a lot of this stems to nostalgia and experience, and horror in general too. Always comes down to that. But
I think it holds up pretty well. I think the effects look are pretty good because most of them are practical, and I think that that's always going to help when the film.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm all about the practical for sure. And I agree 100% that this film still holds up. Now I'm not ready to shift into 2, but I'd like to talk about them side by side. But going into 2 after watching 1 back to back, it was like, what the fuck? It became like a colorful, totally different kind of film. Actually, I mean, granted, it was still a slasher, but and you get the iconic classroom scene, right? But everything is lit up and colorful.
Well, 2 definitely takes the philosophy bigger is better because I think something they were dealing with when they were making 2 is, well, the cat's out of the bag when it comes to Chucky. We know who he is. We know what he looks like when he's evil. So it's not going to work if we go 45 minutes, an hour before showing him in his evil form. So they just did it straight off the bat as soon as he gets recreated. And watching it again, I did kind of have a question because I was like, okay, in the first one they killed him because they shot him in the heart, and the second one he got built again, but it's like, well, did that reproduce a heart in him? I guess because he was becoming again, so I guess the heart reformed when he started like bleeding and stuff. But the sequel, yeah, Chucky's like, he starts becoming more sadistic, like just killing for the hell of it. Like I think the body count went way up, his dialogue went way up, the scenes he was in, and just the fact that like he was when the girl is driving, like the stepsister or the adopted home sister, when she's driving to Andy or the factory or whatever, and he's just like insulting her like a mile a minute. When he's like, hurry up or I'm going to kick your fucking teeth in.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, Chucky. I know you're an evil doll, but damn, you're going over the top.
See, you know what I picked up in part 1 that I never really noticed before? Like, I always knew he was a criminal, but I didn't know he was a serial killer. He was like the lakeside strangler.
Yeah.
So, yeah. He, in part 3, he chokes out the opening scene. He chokes out a guy with a yo-yo, and he's like, like refreshing. I forget the line that he says, but it was like, and that clicked. I was like, holy shit, he's the strangler. That's a thing I never really noticed about the film before. So he is I think he killed 13 people up until, the point where Child's Play begins. So if you think about it, it makes sense, right? He's a sadistic serial killer,
Yep.
Charles Lee Ray. And oh man, I'm so happy I watched part 3 because it was fun for part 3, where you get that whole military. Have you guys seen part 3?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, when he's a little older and in military school, and
yeah. So I'm glad I got to watch that too because it was fun and I liked it better than part 2.
Me too.
Excuse me. Got fucking Ajit over here. But just that.
Also, one thing I also like, sorry, but one thing I also liked is how Andy turned into basically survival mode in part 2. You know, part 1 he was basically the victim. In part 2 he was like running around with fucking like electric knives and shit, and film and shit. He's like, no, I got this.
Yeah, just like fucking got the electric meat cleaver thing. Yeah. Yeah, they definitely went, like Mike said, bigger is better. Yeah, he freaking made him fall down the stairs.
Yep.
And then the mother,
the adoptive mom, she's the lady from American World from London.
Oh yeah. She gets what? The freaking sewing knives? I forgot. She gets the sewing.
She got strangled.
She gets strangled. So yeah, he takes out the adoptive parents, and then they dude, sorry. That scene of him burying the other good guy doll was awesome, I gotta say.
Precious hit him. Yeah. And then buried him.
Yeah. But like you said, how do you take Child's Play and boom, beef it up, right? You fucking make Chucky a wild boar, basically.
Yep.
One thing I liked is the one scene in the school whenever he or no, I can't remember if it was school or whenever the dad died, but Chucky looks at Andy and says, "Oh, come on, don't act like you never seen a dead body before." Like, how fucked up is this kid going to be already? That how many dead people does he have to see by the age of like 8?
Yeah. And I was thinking, like, dude, Alex Vincent's got he was a great child actor. I don't know anything else that he's done or what his story is afterwards, but dude fucking nailed it as like an innocent little kid,
Yeah.
I'm glad to see he brought him back in the new one too. That's cool.
Yeah, he'll be back for the new one. He was in Curse, and he'll be back for Cult. But yeah, I'm not too sure of his filmography after that, but I'm gonna assume that it's nothing crazy, because I mean what do we know about him? Obviously, let's see here. We got the internet at our fingertips. Alex Vincent, filmography, Child's Play, and then 2 other movies: Child's Play 2, Child's Play 3. Another movie in 1993 called My Family Treasure, and then nothing until 2008, 2011, 2013, then it's back to Chucky. So, I mean, he doesn't really have, who knows what the hell happened in that 15-year period, but he's back, Jim, maybe you have to reach out to Alex Vincent, get him on the show.
Well, he might be. I might have been able to do that like before he made his last movie, but yeah, I'll try.
One of the flaws that got me in part 3 too is the way Chucky could just like find them so easily. You're in fucking Chicago, you're not in freaking a small town. It's not so easy to track this kid down. And then, like, I don't know, in the third one, he just like hops on a computer, looks him up. It's 1991. It's not fucking Google. You can't just look shit up like that.
And even if you could, it would take a month.
Yeah.
On part 2, he calls an orphanage and says he's his uncle or something. So they gave me the address.
Uncle Chuck.
Uncle Chuck. Yeah. Oh, no problem. Yeah, he's here. No problem.
Like, oh, yeah,
Go see the Foster kid.
We're not going to verify anything. We believe in Uncle Chuck.
Little shit like that. But, at the same time, suspension of disbelief, I can accept it. I'm not like, we're not talking about a strategically plotted out and intense film, where I'm going to lose my shit over it. It works. It works for me. Yeah, so the two of them though, again, totally different kind of tones, right? The first one more of a psychological slasher, right? It's like fucking with this kid's head, and then the mother, and then the cop, and who's gonna believe them, and talk about the ending. I thought it was actually a brilliant ending, where his partner was just like, "But who's gonna believe me?" You know?
Yeah.
That I thought that was brilliant, you know. And another thing that a little nitpick of mine is how they just are like, yeah, the mother's institutionalized. Okay, for part 2, I could accept that, but now we're talking part 3, and he's like, yeah, my mother's not all right. What? This lady's been in a cuckoo ward for 10 years or something? Like, what's going on? You know, give me a little more feedback. I need the mother. I need to know something, you know?
Yeah.
Just like a quick beat around the bush.
Yeah, you would think she'd still be in the mental institution.
Yeah, for somebody who like fought so hard for her son and to prove a doll, I don't know. It just, and you don't need to get the same actress, you know, could have got another blonde to be the mother. But yeah, I would have liked to know more about that.
I think one of an idea there is that they did want it to be Andy as a star, and no one really, you know, if the mother was there, it would be like her protecting him. Here, it's more of a little boy, you know, having to protect himself and all that. I mean, it's more of a what's going to happen other than a mother protecting her son. So I think it's more vulnerable whenever it's just the kid by himself.
Yeah. And then I like it next to the parents too, like the two figures. Your classic like, oh, we want to adopt 800 kids and love them all, and you know, but then the father's like, do we really want this? You know, questioning things. So I like that dynamic.
They adopted him after seeing him for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, he's all right.
He's dysfunctional enough for us. Come on, kid. Let's go home.
And he's like, are we trained for somebody like this? I'm like, if you have to ask that for a kid, I don't think you should take him home. Are we qualified for this?
This is a little weird thing that I thought about. So, you know, that chick was the chick from 90210, right?
Yep, Emily Valentine.
Yeah, Emily Valentine. So, I started thinking about, you know, she lights up a cigarette in the room. And then I started thinking about 90210 and how, you know, Kelly Kapowski, when she comes on that first episode, she like lights up a J at the end of the episode. And I'm just saying, I started thinking about, like, in movies, nobody ever smells smoke. I was just like thinking about this. I don't know why I was thinking about this, but it happens all the time in movies. It's like, oh, we'll light up a little pot. Oh, this one's coming, and they just like fan it. Yeah. What the dude? That's not fucking real.
Yeah. Do you think a modern horror movie would be able to get away with the scene where Andy tries a cigarette?
Yeah.
Maybe I gotta cut that scene.
Yeah, you can't. I think a movie you can't even have cigarettes in a PG-13 movie anymore.
Wow.
It's crazy. I remember they passed some fucking crazy shit. Who is it? The MPA, FFA, FCC, whoever these fuckers are. That's crazy. Oh, what do you
shit they put on a TV-14 TV show, and the shit they put on a PG-13 movie is so reversed. Like the stuff on like Walking Dead or something like that, or like that's a horror movie. That's worse than a PG-13 movie because they let them do it. A TV show is worse than a PG-13 movie. I don't get it.
Yeah, I can see Child's Play being PG-13 in the 80s.
Yeah,
you know. I mean, what was that movie? Just One of the Guys, where it's about like the girl posing as the guy.
Yeah,
she just like rips her top open at the end to prove she's a broad. You know, a broad, such a horrible term for women. A chick, you know. It's like that was PG-13, and you saw tatas. I mean, many
Yeah,
films.
you're allowed to say like one F word. Like I can't remember the rules, but yeah, you're allowed to say the F word on a PG-13 movie, really. And but you know, I just don't get it. I don't get it.
I don't know. There's definitely some kind of fucking business aspect to it that has to do with money, I'm sure. It always comes down to money.
But
the
successful production companies can get away with a PG-13 rating and doing more than, you know, a low-budget company.
Oh, for sure.
Let me ask you guys. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen the other Chucky movies, but Bride of Chucky, Seed of Chucky. What do you guys takes on that?
I like Bride of Chucky because I think it's almost like a satire of the series. It's a parody almost, but there's still some horror stuff. But Seed of Chucky just goes too far into the coming realm for me. And then Curse of Chucky, I thought was really good. It actually took me a couple watches to appreciate it. You know, like the second time I watched it, I was like, why didn't I like it this much the first time? But yeah, I really like it now.
I'm gonna definitely revisit them. It's been a while.
Yeah, like Bride of Chucky, I liked. I mean, I like the Jennifer Tilly, I like the Tiffany character. You know, it had Katherine Heigl in it. I mean, it had good people. It was more mainstream, but it was still core Chucky film. But when they brought in the kid, the British kid, whatever, I just lost it.
What's the term? I guess a non-sexual being. It wasn't a boy or a girl, right?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure. Like it looked. I think it like looked down and had like nothing there, and it was like, what?
I remember that.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna rewatch these. The second triad of films for in preparation for Cult of Chucky. Yeah, I remember seeing it in theaters and laughing my ass off, just like kind of like almost enamored with the fact that it was self-referential like that, you know?
Oh, here, answer your question. Well, the character is named what, Glenn or Glenda? So, yeah, boy or girl, I don't know. That's just fucking stupid.
And that goes back to Jerry's comment. Child's Play sucks Glenn and Glenda's dick. So, what about the music and the score, right? Because that you guys were talking about the score. No, that was Jerry's score versus soundtrack, right? So in Child's Play we get a score. We don't really get any songs.
Yep.
What do you think?
I prefer scores over soundtracks for horror, and I thought the score of this one was really well done.
Yeah, ominous tones. It sets the scene better than song.
Definitely. Because then in the later Chucky films, you get like fucking typo negative and shit.
Mainstream.
A fun little fact: Charles Lee's name is derived from the names of notorious serial killers Charles Manson, Lee Harvey Oswald, and James Earl Ray. Not James Earl Jones.
Although he is a serial killer, I heard.
Maybe. Maybe.
Totally joking. Don't sue me.
What else, guys? What else can we say about Chuck?
Really, I guess if nobody's ever seen them, get out there and watch them. I mean, they're fun films. I am probably going to catch up on the rest of the series. But yeah, I had a good time watching them. So if anybody's never really seen them, but you know who Chuck is, watch them and, you know, get a little backstory of who he is and why he's so well known.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to point to any other movie or franchise that does the killer doll better.
Yeah, when we were watching it, I couldn't help think I couldn't stop myself from thinking about Talking Tina from Twilight Zone, especially when like he gets thrown in the garbage can and she like sees where'd he go, you know, that whole, you know, I mean, there was definitely some influence from that to a degree. But what other, you know, killer doll movies do we get out there? We got Dolls, we got Puppet Master, I guess.
Dolly Dearest.
Dolly Dearest, you know, nothing does it like, especially the original Child's Play. I mean,
I guess Annabelle. I mean, Annabelle's like the newest one.
yeah, Annabelle's the newest one, but I didn't even see Annabelle yet. But
You had like Dead Silence, which was about puppets. I mean, the puppet really didn't kill, but he was possessed, I guess.
yeah,
Yeah.
Dead Silence, that was a good one. I saw that in the theaters. That was fun.
Yeah.
So the franchise, you know, this is a franchise, you know. Because you see people wearing Chucky on their shirts. I mean, my daughter has 2 plush dolls of Chucky, you know. He's
Next year will be
iconic.
30 years.
What's that?
Next year will be 30 years.
30 years. And it still holds up strong. I think it's almost that time to rate it, fellas. What do you think?
Yeah. I'll just say that there's still, if you look at the modern Child's Play movies compared to other franchises they tried to make like new versions of, I would say the Child's Play one stacks up better than like when they tried to do other slasher franchises like a modern version. So there's that too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know, watching the first one, I've watched it recently a couple times because, like I said, my daughter liked it. And upon those watches, I was like, oh, wow, this is really good, you know? I again, Mike said it earlier, the way they don't show Chucky until about, I'd say, 45 minutes into the film, when you actually see him, like, you know, you don't see him commit the murder, you know, of the first woman, the babysitter / friend of the mother's. And then, like Mike said, when you see that battery, you just see that iconic Chucky turn face where it's just like, looking like a fucking evil, like he's going to bite your fucking teeth, your face off, you know? Speaking of faces off, at the end of part 3, man, that shit was nuts. I forgot about that. I don't know if you remember, his like half his face gets taken off. Whoosh. Yeah. The way the blood and shit looked on Chucky, phenomenal.
Yep. Don't you like it? Isn't it awesome too? At the beginning of part 3, he's like pissed off that he got brought back to life.
Yeah,
because he's like, God damn it! Like now I'm gonna have to go through this whole routine again.
And in that one, he a couple of the blood drops fall into a giant vat of melted doll plastic. And somehow the first one off the thing is him. And I was, you know, thinking, yo, there could be like an army of Chuckies. That'd be a pretty fucking crazy version of the movie, you know?
Chucky clone army.
Army of Chuck.
Hey, if you start writing the script, you never know.
Ash versus Chucky. Army of Chuckness.
Now, didn't you ever think, like, whenever he's getting physical with people, how it's like such a difficult fight for them? Does he have his human powers, or does he have doll powers? Like, it's always he has his human strength.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too, because people toss him like a rag doll, right? He just gets tossed.
Yeah, but then he's climbing on top of them, and they're like wrestling him around. I'm like, if it was wouldn't be that hard to fucking pull a doll off your back. I don't know.
And the whole franchise is ruined for us now.
Yeah,
yeah.
I had silence on my end there, but it's okay.
That's why I think what makes the original stand out so much is just a straight horrors, because you don't get the over the top stuff until like later on, it's like no one. His attacks are a lot more strategic. Where as the franchise goes on, it's straight up like him walking at people and they know it's him. And okay, are they still going to be helpless against this doll?
Yeah, but even in the second one, he was when he was hitting the teacher with the roller. I mean, like she was just staring at him, like you're not going to try to grab the roller a little bit. Like,
Yeah. Kick that little motherfucker. Bam!
It's frozen in.
Yeah, that scene was nuts when he just like the way he's walking with the ruler in his hand, just like this evil look, hair's all wild. Yeah, it's pretty rad. What else did we get? We got a major house explosion. That definitely must have cost dollars.
it actually looked really cool when it came down to in the first one. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, an original story, and a fantastic film. The first one, I definitely recommend it. And like I said, the second one a little off kilter. It turned big and bright, and then the third one, like I said, I found it better in the second one. I think the whole military aspect is like the total polar opposite of what Chucky stands for. You know, breaking the rules, not being told what to do, to a major scale where he's killing people, right? So I thought that was an interesting juxtaposition, and in that one, he's ruthless. Fucking changes all the paintball ammo on all the guns, to live ammo. Like you don't give a shit that they're kids. It's not like they're adults, because usually in these films, all the adults are the ones who get whacked. But like, dude, these are fucking kids. Like, Chuck, you're about to like let teenagers kill each other.
Yeah, and it's not even like necessary for your ultimate plan. You're just doing it.
You're just doing it, yeah. It's like to have fun. Yeah. There's also like a nice cat and mouse aspect to these three movies that I like. It's the chase is always on, and sometimes it's almost like I'm rooting for Chucky, especially in the latter two films. So I don't know. Do you guys feel yourself rooting for Chuck?
I think most slasher movies, by the time they hit like the third, fourth, fifth, you're almost interested to see how the slasher is going to be killing people. That's just like a natural thing.
Yeah.
It's like it's going to happen already, so you might as well just hope for the best.
Yep. And most the movies, slasher sequels, the cast is there to be disposable characters that can just be killed.
Disposable characters. Yeah, man.
So you always know who the stars are who are going to be in there for longest.
Mike, you're gonna have to come back when Cult of Chucky drops, and we'll have to cover that.
Sure, I think it's later this year, right?
I believe October, if I'm not mistaken.
Hell yeah!
So, all right. Well, you guys got any last comments, questions, anything you want to bring up before we rate this?
If you haven't seen it, definitely watch the original. Continue with the franchise.
Release date is set for October 20th of this year, so that'll be a good thing to go out and see and come in.
Ooh, I just saw October 3rd.
I'm looking right now. It says release date October 20th.
Well, tell Wikipedia they got it wrong.
Sometime in October. I trust Google over Wikipedia. But...
Dickopedia. All right, so
either way, October is going to be fucking jam-packed with Slice and Dice because Halloween not only, but we also get a Friday the 13th in October this year. So we're going to have some awesome shows in October.
Oh
Yep.
yeah,
And I think
October will be rocking.
the new Saw movie comes out then too, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Got Jigsaw. So it's so long. I thought the new Halloween was coming out this year. I'm fucking pissed.
No. Next year.
Yeah, take your time with it. Make it good, guys.
Gonna be good. Got a lot of good people involved in that film, so I'm looking very forward to that one. And if the rumors are true, I'm happy that where it's going to fall into place of the original series. So it'll be a lot less controversy as far as part 3 goes anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet. All right, let's rate this, and then I want to just maybe shoot the shit about a couple other things since we're talking about this stuff. But Mike, since you chose these ones, you want to give us your rating on them? Out of 5 zombie heads?
The original, I would say, because to me it's the best example of a killer doll movie that you're probably gonna find. I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 5 zombie heads.
Big and bold. Jim?
Are we doing? Wait, I'm sorry. Did you do a whole or just part 1?
I guess just part 1 for now, and then go back around.
Right, I'm gonna give part 1. Shit, I don't want to get too high here. It's a good movie. Really, watching it back now, it did hold up. You know what? 4 out of 5 zombie heads.
Nice. I was thinking the same exact thing. 4 to 5 zombie heads here. Again, like Mike said, this is definitely the best example of a killer doll movie. The tone of the film, it moves swiftly. You got all this great stuff going on. The score works. Chucky looks fantastic and only gets better as the movies go on as far as the way he looks. You get excellent acting from the cast all around. It doesn't feel cheesy at any point. And especially that scene where she looks and there's no batteries. I mean, that shit is awesome. Iconic, right? So 4 out of 5. It does have its little nitpicks that I mentioned throughout this episode. So those are the kind of reasons that I would drop it. And I'll do Child's Play 2 to start off. Child's Play 2, like I said earlier, it became this almost colorful rendition of Child's Play 1, where the cat mouse game continues. The kills get bigger and Chucky gets brighter. So I'm gonna have to go with a 3 out of 5 because it wasn't bad at all. The movie, it just wasn't as good as the first one. And it does look great. The acting is great. The production value is fantastic. And since I saw part 3, I'll throw a rating up for that one. I liked it better than part 2, and obviously not as good as part 1. So I'll go in between with a 3.5 zombie heads for part 3. Child's Play 2. Let's go backwards, Jim.
Yeah, it's definitely the lesser of the 2 films. Because I didn't see 3 recently, I'm going to let you go on that one, even though I do remember it. I know I liked it better than 2, obviously, but I'm going to say 3 for me on part 2. It was good. I liked it. It was pretty much just a lesser version of part 1, but yeah, the fact that he was pretty much just straight up, there was really no build up. It was just right from the get go. You knew he was coming, and you knew what he was going to do. So a little more simplistic, but still a good film. So yeah, 3 out of 5 zombie heads.
All right, and Mike.
I'm going to go. You can do half, right? 3.5.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to do 3.5. I think part 2 it loses some of the horror luster because they have to go bigger and bold. You don't get the build to the reveal, which takes away a little bit of the scariness of the first one. But at the same time, you also just get over the top asshole Chucky or Charles Lee Ray doing his thing, which is entertaining. But I just think it's hard to recreate the suspense of the original. So I'll go 3.5 for Child's Play.
All right. And there it is, folks. Child's Play discussion. And before we leave, I just wanted to talk about a couple things. So we mentioned these movies coming out. So the Jigsaw movie coming out. How do you feel about the Saw films, Mike? Where do you lie on those?
I'm actually a big fan of the franchise. I know a lot of people aren't, or they like the first one, but not the rest. I think they're all well. I would say part one is just an excellent horror movie. The story, the twist. It's also one of those movies that it's not as gory as you think it is from memory. Because the series got so gory as it went on, I think it makes people think that the original was just ridiculously gory, but it's actually not. I think the first one, the strength is the story and the twist that you get. I love part 2 and part 3. I think the series takes a bit of a dip with parts 4 and 5, but rebounds nicely with 6, and then 7 was kind of like a decent conclusion, but now we find out it's not really a conclusion because we're getting a new one. But overall, I actually own the series on Blu-ray. It was like on Amazon for like $25. So I was like, yeah, that's very cheap for all those movies. So I am probably going to be rewatching the entire franchise in preparation because it's been a while since I've seen some of them. So I don't know if I'm going to podcast. I mean, I'll probably mention it on one of my shows, but I'm definitely going to be rewatching them in anticipation for the new one.
Likewise, I haven't seen. Forget about it. Any of the sequel. I haven't seen any of the Saw movies in years, and I didn't see the last one. So I'm out of the loop as far as the storyline. I can't remember, everything that happened. I remember the guy with the kid and all this shit, and the cop, the crooked cop, and all that. But I mean, I definitely have to rewatch, the sequence to lead up to Jigsaw.
Yeah,
but
wasn't a fun thing to do, like because they always would come out every October, like right around Halloween. So it became like almost like a tradition for 7 straight years to go see Saw in October. It was cool.
Oh yeah, yep. Seen a couple of them in the theater, and seeing those kills on a big screen, a lot of splatter. Jim, how do you feel about the Saw franchise?
I was a huge fan of the first one. When it first came out, everybody was like, "Oh wow, this was really really cool," And I did see that one recently. I think I've only seen 1, 2, and 3. And none of the others, I don't know why. I don't know if they ever came across my TV or anything like that. But yeah, 1, 2, and 3 I thought were pretty decent. But I am obviously going to have to catch up on them. So, but no, I thought overall they were really good, the ones I saw. So I would definitely go back and watch them again.
I'll tell you, I think the kill that sticks out the most to me, and it's not even really a kill until I think after, is in part 2 when they throw the girl in the pit of needles.
Oh yeah,
fucking nuts. That one I just vividly remember. I remember, all the wacky traps and stuff, but that one, man, can you imagine getting thrown on a fucking ton of needles, most likely infected? Scary. Scary shit. All right, so I wanted to also bring up the other new movie coming out next month, It. We've been talking about it on our podcast a lot lately. We had an episode devoted to the miniseries. So how do you feel about It? What is your relationship with It? And maybe there's none, maybe there is, the novel, the miniseries. What, Pennywise, where you at?
Mike.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Great.
I grew up right at the right time where I was a kid when TV miniseries aired. Scared the hell out of me, and one of the things that we don't get as much nowadays. There's a few shows like, say, something like The Walking Dead or Breaking Bad or now Game of Thrones, where like most people, well, I don't want to say most, but a huge amount of people are watching them. Well, back in like the late 80s, early 90s, before cable and satellite had hundreds of channels, pretty much like almost everyone you knew would tune into like the big movie of the week, or anytime a Stephen King series came out, like everybody's watching it. So I remember going to school like the Monday after it aired, and everybody was talking about it. It was so cool and how scary it was. And so I grew up with it, loved it. I never read the book. My neighbor, the house next door to me, was a girl I went to school with, and her older sister, she was a teenager when we were about like 9, 10, 11, and she had the book. And at that time in my life, that was the biggest book I've ever seen. And it always scared me too much to read it. One, because the story was scary, but it was so damn big. And I was like, I'll never get through a book that size. And as far as the trailer for the new one, it sold me. The first trailer that came out a few months ago, it was good, but it mimicked like the trailer of the original one a lot. So I was like, okay, it looks good, but it looks the same. But that second trailer that came out maybe a few weeks ago, I think, maybe it was at Comic-Con.
Yeah.
It was crazy good, and it relieved any worry I had. I'm like, all right, I'm fully on board now. I can't wait.
Awesome. I didn't get to see it yet. I'm kind of refraining from it. I saw the first trailer, but yeah, I mentioned that also they showed 5-minute clip, and apparently Pennywise gets real crazy in it. So we'll see. That's less than a month away, right? September 9th, I believe.
Yep.
No, I'm definitely looking forward to it. I thought the trailer were good. A lot of people were saying they're worried that the trailers are giving away too much, but I think we all know going in what it's predominantly going to be about. But I think they're going to make it a lot darker and a lot. They're able to, let the reins off them a little bit, which I know they couldn't do in the original. So I'm looking forward to it. I hope they make a lot of good choices and they make them a lot more evil and a lot more sadistic.
Joe Hill, I mentioned this on the last episode or the one before it. Joe Hill saw the film and says it was in the top 5 scariest movies ever. Joe Hill, Stephen King's son. So we'll see. I'm really hyped. I mean, I love the original and the novel of what I read, because I didn't read it all. It's fantastic. So yeah, we'll see what happens next month with that one. September 8th next month. So less than a month away.
And September 8th is right around the corner. And if anyone's familiar with that website, advancedscreenings.com, you should start looking on there, because we're about a little over half a month away. So they're probably going to start doing like the advanced screenings for that. So you just go to that website and then type in your city, and then you can find out if they're doing any screening they give away tickets for. I use that website all the time.
I never heard of this in my life.
Do it, man. Just go advancedscreenings.com, type in your city, and it'll tell you about any free screenings that they're showing, and then you just print out your tickets. You got to show up early though, because like a bunch of people do it and they overbook them just to make sure it's sold out. But I mean, if you have the time to go a little bit early, you're pretty much guaranteed to see a free movie. And yeah, I check that site like almost daily.
What? Let's see here. I just pulled it up on my phone.
Yeah, it might be early for it screenings, but I'm sure they'll have a list of screenings of whatever's in your city for now.
Oh, they got a couple up there already. Sweet, but not New York. But I'm sure they will.
Oh yeah, there's no way New York's going to be shut out of that.
Wow, this is an interesting. I never heard of this site before. Pretty fucking cool, man.
Yeah,
I like it. All right. Well, anything else for the episode, Jimmy?
Before we go, I'll pick a little random fan. Give a little shout out to Austin Charlton. Thanks for listening. Keep sharing and keep listening. Hope everybody keeps liking the show. A lot of people are coming across it online, so I'm happy to see that we're getting out there.
I hope we have
Excellent.
convinced Jerry to watch Child's Play. Again,
Come on, Jerry, just do it. You got to get ready for the cult of Chucky.
I know. Get prepared. Get schooled up.
All right. Oh, it sounded like exploding heads right there. All right. Okay, boys. Well, I think that's it for episode 28 of Slice and Dice Dreadcast, folks. Mike, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for coming on.
Yes. I'll come back anytime you guys want.
All right. So check out Mike on the Horrorphilia Network and the Legion Network, where you can find evil episodes, Theme Warriors, Cut to the Chase, and whatever other podcast Michael gets into. So until next time, where I don't even know, what are we doing next time?
I'm on schedule so far right now. Next Tuesday we have Chris James back on for Sinister 1 and 2.
Ooh, Chris James is back. Sinister 1 and 2. So
And we still have to throw out there the Insidious episode. We pushed James back on. So
yes, and we got an episode with Bill Castanelli to come back on that we've been pushing. So we're a little behind, but hey, we're not getting
Gabrielle's
paychecks.
back on too.
Oh yeah, Gabrielle Stone. So we're backed up, but hey, people are constantly hitting me up like, hey, can I come on? And I'm like, maybe. We're kind of booked for August.
I did want to give a little shout out from our last episode with Deborah Voorhees. We went over to that Friday the 13th fans page on Facebook, and I tried to save her life, but ultimately I could not. She was the last final girl to bite the dust on that poll. So, but she made it in like the top 5. So, but I just want to say sorry about that. But she had a good run.
Number 1, Debbie. Number 1.
One in my heart.
I just listened to that episode today at work. It was awesome. Your interview with her was great.
Oh, thanks. She was
Thanks.
She was a gem. She really was a sweetheart. So yeah, we'll definitely hopefully get her back on when her movie The List drops. So check out that coming out, The List by Debbie Voorhees. All right, boys. Until next time, where who knows who's going to be on the fucking show, but tentatively, either J Mac or Chris James, or maybe both again. You never know.
Never know.
All right, Mike. Again, it's been a pleasure. Until next time, take care on the West Coast.